Alrighty. Lying food. What did you guys think of the article slash ads?
I thought it was cool to see like their techniques, how they made the food look better, like when they put all the like toppings in the front and stuff like that.
Mm,
Because I always see that and I always just think that they must have photoshopped the photo, but they actually have like real techniques with the actual thing on top of like editing the photo. But I thought it was cool to see. I didn't know
indeed.
I
I
think
thought
it's
it
kind of crazy, like how much time they put into making it.
that.
Yeah.
also it's
Or
pretty interesting because like I've seen a bunch of videos about how like cereal companies instead of using milk, they'll use like Elmer's glue on top of like a plastic saran wrap to put their cereal in, so it like floats at the top. Or
Mhm.
like when the Campbell's, like in the article, it talks about Campbell's in like 1968. They put marbles in the bottom of their soup, so it could like plump up the sunken vegetables like to the surface.
hmm.
And it was like kind of a big legal deal because they were like, oh, like this is like false advertising. Like
Hmm.
they were
Yeah,
just
I
using
saw.
it to make it look more appetizing.
I've seen stuff like that where they do it with pizza. And they do glue on the edges. And they do the
Yeah.
big cheese pull.
Mm-hmm.
Looks nothing like real life.
Huh.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I've read things about how like they do it with certain things on like when they like do a burger or something like that. They'll um use fake stuff
Mm-hmm.
um to take pictures of one, which it's kind of crazy like how like some of this stuff was thought of. Like I never would have thought about putting marbles
Mhm.
underneath a bunch of vegetables to keep them up.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like how food advertising's changed throughout the years from kind of static to super dynamic, so it moves around.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's in realistic atmospheres. Um, I don't know, just kind of time changes was pretty interesting. Um, they figured out what consumers react to the best.
Like crazy how much effort goes into shooting these ads too, because they're like essentially like whole movie productions that just take like weeks at a time that they're just kind of like pumping out over and over again.
Well, and they pay like one person to get the food all set up how it needs to be.
Yeah.
Like 8 people. Hmm.
Should we get into how it relates to chapter 16 through 18?
Indeed.
Yeah,
The market
probably.
mix and product pricing and stuff. Holy cow.
Yeah, Oh wait, that's dumb. There we go. Hmm. Um.
So when it comes to like integrated marketing communications, which is like what chapter 16 was about how like basically everything the company is doing for you is like kind of a marketing channel to like kind of drive that into your head. So like the in-flight dining experience with like the flight attendants and the meals and like the attempted service and all that stuff is all like basically an attempt to like do more marketing or customer care to like give that feeling of confidence and like like luxury like on the plane.
Yeah.
Like for example, like when you look at like kind of what separates the airlines, like if you look at like United Arab Emirates versus like a Delta, like the difference isn't really like the plane or like how much space there is on the plane. It's like the quality of service on the plane and like the marketing of like the food and the other utilities and services that are provided. And
Hmm.
that's like they like are able to like pull more revenue and make a little bit more money. Just pulling from like the luxury crowd.
Yeah, I mean the biggest Oh, the biggest thing that I thought was pretty interesting, that kind of connected was just product placement within media. So
Mhm.
if you watch pretty much any film anytime, there are going to be products placed within the media. And I read a paper about why, well, not why, but I read a paper about how consumers react to product placement. And consumers tend, or film goers, not even consumers, film goers tend to react very positively to product placement because it kind of builds an atmosphere until it reaches a specific point in which they start to hate it, or if they believe the film was, if it took away from any like creative liberties or uh, artistic decisions that the producers or directors could have made, um, that's when it starts to hinder a brand's public image in within films and media, I guess. But I was struggling because there's a very minute difference between product placement and native advertising. Can anybody clarify that for me?
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. So native advertising is a kind of online advertisement specifically. Like it's apparently like only online, but it matches the form and function of the platform on which it appears. So like native advertising is like advertising on like specific platform and like branding for that. And it essentially like avoids disruption of the user experience. So like if it's like product placement in a movie, it's just not like overly noticeable or anything like that. So like I guess it could be applied to like product placement in movies and stuff like that.
Product placement could be considered native advertising.
Indeed, if done properly, yeah.
Yeah, like if you're filming a runner in a movie running and they're tying up their shoes and happen to be a Nike shoe.
Yeah.
That's okay. That would be native advertising because it doesn't take away from the film.
Indeed.
But okay, cool. But it fits
like,
okay. That's pretty cool.
I thought chapter 18 was pretty cool, like connecting it to this video with all the like sales promotion and personal selling, because all these commercials are like top tier. They're kind of just selling themselves in a way. There's really, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into making these commercials somewhat. But it's just cool how they just get to sit back, throw out this commercial, and does all the personal selling for them. They don't have to go out and do anything extra.
Indeed.
I like that. Go ahead.
You go ahead, Duncan.
Oh shit. Oh, they were selling a feeling of hunger, which is pretty cool. When you're able to make food look a specific way and it triggers a feeling of hunger within its viewers, that's wild. If you can trigger feelings within, like, I guess it's kind of modern advertising, whereas historically it's been my product because X, Y, and Z, and now it's my product makes you feel this way and do this, and it's pretty apparent within the timeline of food advertisements. My food's the best. It comes from X farm, Y farm, and makes my children full. I don't have to cook very much food.
I think advertising in that sense has like become like a lot more like esoteric and like I guess like far off, because like products aren't exactly like selling themselves. They're selling like the brand and like the personal role that they provide in like the marketplace and stuff like that. Trying to like differentiate themselves to the point of like building like brand loyalty and like dedicated brand loyalty. Like Delta, like with their like with how their flight attendants dress up and like they're like, you know, they tell them to like try to be as nice as possible to you and like talk to you if you're bored and all that kind of stuff. It just like it ups their perceived quality of service, and like, you know, it like they're trying to turn the flight into an experience rather than like just like a journey, I guess.
Yeah.
Like that's in my opinion how they are like personal selling their own like brand and like getting their promotions on sales and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah. And then another type of advertising that I think it could harm businesses by doing it is, it was like, I can't remember the term, but it was at least one of the questions in the homework assignments was almonds are uh, Blue Diamond decided to advertise almonds as a healthy go-to snack or whatever. And that would affect the entire nut industry. So positive, like a collaborative, what was the term? I can't remember. Well, collaborative marketing can affect an entire industry, which could it could lead others to other products. If you're like, oh, all nuts are great, go buy nuts, and then it would increase the sales of nuts across the world. But it wouldn't necessarily increase your sales of nuts.
Yeah, because then you're selling the product and not your specific branded of product.
Yes. It's not collaborative advertising. What is it?
Yeah, if you were just advertising like for a toilet,
Yes.
I think you guys should all get toilets. They're pretty sick. But like not a specific toilet like Johnson and Johnson or like whatever. What did you guys think about the pricing concepts for chapter 18? Like like how it's like kind of interesting for airlines to deal with like balancing how expensive the meals cost to like keep and refrigerate up there while making them like not taste awful or like fast food. And like how they like basically like discovered new they like discovered new preservation techniques and like different stuff like that like essentially helps extend the lifetime of their meals because they're not all consumed in singular flights.
I need to learn how to do that for my food. That'd be nice. If I could figure that out, that'd be pretty sweet.
Agreed. And then the other thing is they also have like they'll have like different price tiered meals and stuff like that. Like on the flights, like you've got your fancy like steak dinner that they'll offer you or whatever. And then you've got your like, your basic like probably dog shit like bowl of food.
Well,
Like okay, so let's look at the United Airlines in-flight dining menu.
It's probably not too great.
Probably not.
The only food I've ever had on planes is pretzels and cookies.
Yeah, those are awesome.
I don't feel like spending like $1 million on a meal.
Yeah. Okay, so these all just look like just awful like sandwiches and like cheese platters and fruit trays. But yeah, like the price range like starts at 10 and goes all the way up to like 40, depending on like the specific meal you want.
Well, and also like depending on like airlines too, the higher up you are in like seats, like first class and stuff, you get different
Accent.
options. And they're
Yeah,
usually better options.
that's always fun. And then of course you've got the spirits and liquors that airplanes are so awesome at marketing.
Yep.
$10 shooters. That is an insane.
Yeah, and I know this personally though. Delta, all you have to do is like pay for Comfort Plus, and you get free drinks, which is not great. But it like it also comes down on how much people are willing to spend, like what they think um people will help that or will make people like upgrade their seats.
Yeah.
Mhm.
United Airlines is selling a $9 White Claw.
I
They
just
get away with it,
huh?
and they get away with it like quite often. Everybody is
Well,
drinking
and
on.
it like really depends on how long of a flight you're on too.
And the other thing too is I feel like the pricing is like really not upfront. Like whenever they're giving you your like snacks or drinks or they ask if you want anything, they're not like, "Oh, it'll be this much." They just charge your card or like whatever you use to pay if like.
Uh,
So
Yeah, I
it's not like
know.
a contractual agreement between parties. They're just like, "You want
Well,
this?"
not a, yeah. If you look at the menu, if you look at like the book and all of that, it does say upfront how much everything's at, but that means you actually have to look, and most people don't.
That is fair. Yeah, so
mm,
like the information's there, but it's not super readily available.
It's
And
like,
it's not.
yeah, like Delta has it on their screens, but I just flew Allegiant when I went to Nashville,
Hmm.
and everything was in a book that was shoved in a seat in between the safety and the credit card. So
Did
you got to look for it.
Allegiant try to sell you? Does Allegiance have a credit card?
Mhm.
Nice. Wild.
Yep.
Got a credit
Um,
card now. Well, they all figured out that like, since everybody is like Klarna paying for burritos, that like if they just take advantage of like the lower to middle classes interest problem.
yeah. So,
Like
eh,
Costco having their own credit card, that's got to be predatory.
well, yeah, but then they use it so then you don't have to pay. Like, I mean, granted, you pay for a Costco membership, but that's not how they advertise it as. They advertise it as you pay this annual fee for our credit card, and you get into Costco, and that's your membership.
Oh, so the credit card doubles as a Costco membership?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Ooh. Okay. Huh.
You
I
can
was
use you
marketing
can
right
use
there.
the
I'm
credit
intrigued.
card to get into Costco, and that's where they get people.
I was actually thinking about upgrading to that to get the Costco credit card.
I think in all reality, it's actually worth it.
Mhm.
Because with your membership, you get money back anyways, and all of that. But yeah, no, that's where Costco gets people is like their credit card doubles as a Costco like membership.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Lou's getting some ideas.
the more you know.
Well, good to know. But yeah, like the fact that an airline has a credit card. Well, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense, like because you build up points and miles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
but there's something like,
good thing to
well,
do.
my roommate's doing a lot of research in personal finance recently.
Mhm.
And it's something like 90, it's like in the 90s. I'm not sure how high up. It might be 99 or 98 or 90. But like 90% of credit card rewards aren't even claimed.
Yeah, so they
Like,
never get used, or they just
they
sit
never
there.
get used. Like you earn them all and you don't use them.
Well,
And
because
credit
like a
card
lot of the
companies know
time,
that.
it's like,
They advertise their benefits and their rewards, like, oh, get these points, get these miles, get this and that. But they don't advertise like this is your interest rate.
yeah,
Like the actual important part of a credit card. Well, not really the important part, but yeah, I don't know. The credit card industry is wild.
No, that makes sense because that's how I got this Southwest card because it was like you could take $200 off or whatever. I didn't
Mhm.
read anything about it, and I just all these fees like every month, and I didn't know that was like a part of it. And I don't even know how to use the benefits, so really, it just does
Yeah,
not.
it's kind of wild.
It's like the
And
number one thing I look at when I'm signing up for a new credit card is if they have an annual rate. That
Mhm.
is the one thing I will look at every time. I don't quite care about the interest rate because I'm gonna get that like no matter what credit card I go with. But the annual fee is definitely something that I I'm always looking at.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, almost
If I
Well,
fly or if I shop there, then I get it, which I don't know.
well, and that's why like I have a Discover student card, which that one actually isn't technically it's supposed to max out at 500. Because I mean it's made for 18-year-olds. Which like in the long run doesn't make it a great credit card. Because it doesn't really help with your debt to income ratio. It does a little bit, but not as much as like having a 1,500 credit limit and then like paying off 500 of it um each month. Whereas like Discover, you can max it out and then pay it off, and it just like doesn't really do anything because then you're maxing a card out and then paying it off. Um,
well,
I was going somewhere with that,
Right.
but I don't remember. Go ahead.
What's been the most interesting thing we learned about marketing this term, guys?
Most interesting thing.
I think it was week 2 podcast with like the market or the advertising tactics where like they talked about the cult mindset and like just they did in advertising or like making the consumer become the ad by wearing it. I just thought like learning about that was interesting because it's like stuff you don't realize and then you realize after like seeing ads now, you like see it.
yeah.
I like I personally feel like I actually got the most out of like this week's stuff with the pricing concepts because I own 2 different businesses. I own a window cleaning and like maintenance company and then a personal training company. So like kind of figuring out how much I should charge people when there's like not a real base besides like the other entities in the market that I'm competing with has been an interesting journey for like the last year. So I found that like pretty interesting, and I feel like this class has like definitely helped me, up my prices a little bit and like kind of charge, what I can and like what is allowed to me by the market.
What's your handyman window cleaning business called?
Ganro Window Cleaning and Maintenance LLC.
I know what's the personal training business called?
Personal training. It's also just Ganro Training LLC.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is that Justin here in Bozeman, Luke?
Yeah. So it's like the window cleaning business is like small time. Like I've done a few houses like across the state just because like I've got buddies places who kind of know how to do it and like they don't mess up that commonly, so I felt comfortable with them doing it. But that's like smaller time. I'm making a lot more money for my personal training, quite frankly.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a lot easier.
Did you think?
Yeah,
Are you credentialed?
I am certified, but like most certifications are bullshit. So
Yeah.
like it's not like I went and like got like the craziest like couple $1,000 certification. I just like paid like $500-600 to take a proctored test and have them be like, yeah, he's legit.
I'm good. That's right. Yep. That's good.
But yeah, that I thought that was wildly interesting, and at least like it's like crossed over and like helped me outside of class as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's important. I don't know if you're learning and can't apply it. There's no reason to learn. But I think the most interesting section through this, I don't know, 6 weeks course, was either I liked the Amazon documentary, but I think it was a little too surface level. I wish they chose one of those topics and had a super deep dive into it instead of kind of the entire. The Amazon's way too big to cover in a 2-hour documentary. So cover one aspect of Amazon, do that. But that was interesting. And then I really liked American Warehouse. Just, I guess, the influence of international funding on American workers was pretty wild to see. Because I think it connects back to politics today, because Trump clearly has he wants to bring manufacturing back to the United States. He's explicitly said this. And he's going to do this by imposing tariffs on pretty much like across board. And when you bring manufacturing back into the United States, you still need to have the companies based in the United States wanting to pay for this manufacturing in the United States. So it kind of opened my eyes up to see who was willing, well, not who was willing to pay, but who's actually going to open up the factories in on our land.
And those factory jobs unless they're paying like a ridiculous amount of money. Like we don't have a whole lot of like young men who are like looking to like work physically in our generation.
No. Well, yeah. Because I don't know, working hard physically is super rewarding.
Indeed.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
I fucked with the Yankees Suck documentary.
That was one of my favorites too.
Yeah, I just liked it because it was just like a bunch of idiots basically like lucking out on like a branding project, which is like that's pretty cool. Like, how could that not be? That's like, who doesn't wish that would happen to them and their buddies? Like, that's sweet.
Yeah, yeah. They're like the funniest thing about that documentary is they're going around just beating the shit out of people and slashing people's tires.
Yeah, like it's not legit business practice. It's awesome.
Anything for business.
Of course.
Yeah. I definitely think that the American Factories one was my favorite, and a lot had to do with like the difference in cultures between like Americans and the Chinese and all of that. And just kind of how different they work compared to like how we work.
Yeah.
Just like safety wise, hours, all of that. It was just kind of crazy to see.
Like conflict between cultures and how like, you know, one might give a shit.
Yeah. Well, and how like frustrated one culture got over the other one. And a lot had to do with like how they worked and their ethics and all of that. And it was just kind of crazy to see just the like how different everything was. So,
And it was cool to see. It was interesting to see that like factory got like boned a few years later with like lawsuits and like stuff like that.
Yeah.
It is still in business, so they're doing well enough, I guess.
Yeah. And at the end of the document, like, I don't know, the way the Fuyao CEO approached his business practices was pretty interesting. I mean, it's reminiscent of just Eastern religion and Eastern cultures. But one quote that stuck out to me for pretty much the whole time is he doesn't know whether he's good or evil. Because when he was a child, he could listen to the frogs and see the flowers and the landscapes. And now that doesn't exist. But he's also provided some sort of economic, some sort of stability for the people in those places he's built these warehouses and factories. And he left it ambiguous as to whether or not he was good or bad. And I think that's very humble of him to an extent. Maybe not humble, just respectable. It's definitely respectable because he understood the negative implications of what he's done.
Yeah.
Kind of goes along with that like Eastern philosophy though. Like they have like a really like well-rounded, self-aware view of the world.
Yeah. Maintaining balance.
Dude. I fuck with their viewpoints, even though they work a little bit too hard in the factory.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then what's the last question? Oh, last question.
Most unexpected thing? Did we go over that one?
I don't think we did the unexpected thing.
Okay. What is the most unexpected thing you guys have learned about marketing?
Hmm. How like culty and like weird and psychological it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're really like you're trying to like control the way somebody else thinks about like a specific product or entity like in the marketplace. So like
Mhm.
it really is like really like super suggestive and kind of like under the current to try to like essentially convince you to like enjoy different things or want to purchase them, which
Yeah.
is kind of weird. Like in that one documentary where they're talking about like the cult mentality and like kind of creating like a spirituality around like their product or their brand. I thought that was like wildly interesting. And like you kind of see that a lot now, like with especially with clothing brands. Like they're not more so like just for the clothes that they produce, but like
The
the
image, the
social
way.
standing that like wearing a specific brand will give you.
Yeah.
Like like wearing Lululemon, like that brand like did its damnedest to like get fat people and poor people to not wear it for so long. But it's like considered like like the hoity-toity like rich white person brand or whatever. So it's like that, like each brand like does their own like kind of culty, manipulative type of things to
Well,
like
and
make their
it's
own product like, a little bit
kind of
better and like sell more.
crazy how it works. Like, it definitely works. Um, and it's just kind of insane. Like we go along with it basically. I mean, these companies are getting away with it because we let them.
Well, you can't really do anything about marketing. I mean, there's very few things you can actually do. Um, like if you're going to go watch a film, obviously people need to fund this film. Nike's going to pay X amount of money to put Nike in the film. Um, and like Nike's measurable, like you can't quantify that logo in that film, or that space within the film. It is so difficult to quantify. And even if you are able to quantify it, finding causality is just impossible. Like no way you're going to be able to. Like I was watching an episode of, like a rerun episode of Community. Have you guys heard of that TV show?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a why it's an interesting TV show. It's a little weirder, but it just has an entire episode about them going to space in a KFC Winnebago, and you're like, yeah, I
Show?
know KFC paid X amount of money to put their logos, and you have to balance the 7 herbs and spices to do this. Um,
Well, and have you guys all seen Twisters?
yeah. Oh, but if I
Uh,
want to go to KFC, they're not going to be able to know that I watched that. Like, let's say I'm like, oh, I'm hungry, driving down the road, and I see a KFC on my right. They're not going to know that that advertising campaign back in 2011 was the one that affected me to go buy. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like no way. So
well, it's the same with vehicles. I mean, there's some Twisters was one of them. I think a lot of the vehicles shown in the movie was, I want to say they were Dodge. It was Dodge that had paid like a lot of money to advertise that and all. But it's the same with like everyday like shows and everything. The Rookie, I want to say almost does like almost all Ford vehicles. And it's just kind of crazy how much like they pay and stuff to like slowly do these advertising.
hmm.
And it's weird too, because it's all like kind of subliminal and suggestive instead of being like really on the nose. Like
Yeah.
you'd figure if they're paying so much money, they'd be like, Ford, buy Ford trucks, they're awesome. But that's not really what goes down.
Well, and when it comes to like Dodge vehicles, because I'm trying to remember all the vehicles, but it's Dodge, Jeep, um, and another one. So it's like three different uh models of cars that are all just one big company. So if that like Mopar, so it's Mopar,
Oh,
and if Mopar
GM.
pays, huh?
Is it General Motors?
I don't think so. Mopar. So Mopar's the company that owns like Dodge and Jeep. And I'm trying to remember the third like big model that they own. But so if they like pay for the advertising, then the only vehicle shown in that movie is going to be a Dodge or Jeep or a whatever other kind of brand they have. But it's just kind of crazy. Like they're all just very like subtle.
Hmm.
Yeah. One part that I was kind of left dissatisfied with was the ethics of the ethics of marketing. Because it's not inherently bad to go, yes, you want to buy my product because it's better than everybody else's product, or it makes you feel this way. And
But it
I
feels weird when you like take advantage of like certain sociological scenarios and like try to like psychologically manipulate people into liking things. Like that feels a little not awesome, you know? Like trying to convince
Yeah.
people to like or buy something that could be shit / they don't need is
Yeah.
morally ambiguous in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, I studied, like my major is philosophy. So that's kind of the thing I liked the most thinking about. And it's just not, it seemed very surface level and not very in depth. Because companies are their goal is to manipulate you to buy a product. Or sometimes not even to buy a product, sometimes just to think about it. And then 2 years later, you'll go buy it. Like,
Yeah.
Like it's, I don't know. And
I mean, that's how they make a shitload of money, but is it right? Good question.
yeah, I don't know. Nobody's to know. No.
Got any other questions answered for this podcast thing?
No, I think we're good.
I'm good.
Holy shit.